Can you eat beans and legumes with high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes? If you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, you'll often get the advice to eat low carb or low sugar to improve your blood sugar. And often you'll also get the advice to avoid beans and legumes because they contain high amounts of carbs and sugars. The question is whether this is actually true and whether beans are good or bad for your blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. That's what we'll discuss in this video. Hi, I'm Ali from Illness Free Life, and in this video you'll learn whether you can eat beans and legumes if you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. First of all, it's good to know that eating anything that contains sugars or carbohydrates will impact your blood sugar in a minor or huge way. So yes, products that contain sugars or carbohydrates will have an effect on your type 2 diabetes. However, it's not as simple as just looking at the amounts of carbohydrates and sugars in a product to determine whether you can or should eat it if you have high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes. Because when it comes to product, you're not eating one simple macronutrient such as the amount of sugars or such as the amount of carbohydrates. No, you're eating the entire product. And when it comes to eating an entire product, you should also look at the complete composition of a product and not a single nutrient. Because when it comes to carb sources or sugar sources, it's not as simple as just looking at the amount of carbohydrates per unit of weight or the amount of sugars per unit of weight. You have to look at the complete composition of these products because multiple nutrients affect how your body reacts to the amount of carbohydrates and sugars in a product. And the easiest way to understand this is by putting carbohydrate and sugar sources into two categories. Either the fast and simple carb and sugar sources category or the slow and complex category. Like the name says, fast or simple carb and sugar sources are easily and fast digested by your body. That means when you eat them, your intestines and stomach will digest them quickly, you'll absorb the carbohydrates and sugars quickly, they will end up in your bloodstream quickly, and this means that your pancreas has to produce a lot of insulin very quickly. These products give you high blood sugar, and because your pancreas has to produce a lot of insulin, in the long run also insulin resistance. Products that are simple or fast are things like cookies, cakes, pasta, rice, white bread, sodas, juices. All these products have in common that they contain high amounts of carbohydrates, high amounts of sugars, and little to no other beneficial compounds or nutrients in these products. Slow or complex carbohydrate and sugar sources, like the name says, are slowly digested by the body. Thus, the carbohydrates and sugars in these products are slowly absorbed, end up slowly in your bloodstream, and thus your pancreas has to make small amount of insulins over a long period of time, which impacts your health way different. Blood sugars never rise as high as compared to the fast and easy to digest sources, and these healthier options have little to no impact on your insulin resistance. If they do anything, it's to improve it. Products that belong to this category are nuts, most vegetables, fruits that contain high amounts of dietary fibers, oatmeal, and much, much more. You might have noticed the difference between what makes a slow or complex carbohydrate and sugar source and what makes a fast and easy to digest carbohydrate and sugar source. And the main difference between the two are the amount of dietary fibers in the product. Which brings us to one of the most important things to understand about vegetables, fruits, beans, and that is the amount of dietary fiber in a product. Dietary fibers have a lot of benefits for your body, but when it comes to blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, it's good to know the following. When you eat dietary fibers and when they come in contact with water, either from the product itself or the water in your stomach, the dietary fibers turn the water into a gel. And this gel makes your food or stomach content a bit sludgy. Compare it a little bit to turning water into honey or water into yogurt and then filling a swimming pool with it. Swimming in a swimming pool with water is way easier than swimming in a swimming pool with honey or yogurt. Why? Because the substance, the liquid, is way thicker in the case of honey or yogurt. And the same thing happens in your stomach, which has one huge benefit for your blood sugar. When the fibers turn the water in your stomach into a gel-like structure, the effect of this on carbohydrates and sugars are that you absorb less carbohydrates and sugars over the same period. Plus, the speed with which this happens is lowered. Again, compare it to swimming in a swimming pool filled with water and a swimming pool filled with yogurt. In a swimming pool filled with yogurt, you'll be able to swim way less fast when compared to water. And the same thing goes for the dietary fibers. Your absorption amount and the speed will be way lower due to these dietary fibers. And of course, if you absorb less carbohydrates and sugars at a slower rate, this means that your blood sugar spikes will be way lower, and thus your pancreas has to produce less insulin in smaller amounts of time. Which brings us to the composition of most beans and legumes. Although most people in real life or online will tell you that beans and legumes contain high amounts of carbs and sugars, it's not really true. Now, depending on the bean and legume we're talking about, the content of them with regards to sugars and carbohydrates is somewhere between 10 to 15% of their weight, and the dietary fiber content is around 7%. To put this in perspective for you, whole wheat bread contains around the same amount of dietary fibers per unit of weight as beans, which is good. However, it contains around 3 times as much carbohydrates and sugars per unit of weight, which is definitely not so ideal. Potatoes, on the other hand, contain about double the amount of carbohydrates and sugars as beans, which is not ideal, but they also only contain about 1/3 of the amount of dietary fibers per unit of weight, which is of course far from ideal. All in all, beans and legumes do not contain as much carbohydrates and sugars as you might think, especially when you combine it with the amount of dietary fibers they contain. Now quick, before we continue, do you like this video and want to receive more of these videos? Please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe for free to this YouTube channel. That way you'll never miss a video we publish, and you'll help us reach more people to improve their blood sugar and reverse their type 2 diabetes. And now back to the video. Now, not only do beans not contain a lot of carbohydrates and sugars per unit of weight, and do contain a lot of dietary fibers per unit of weight, they also contain a host of different compounds and nutrients that are very healthy for your body. They contain several vitamins, several minerals, a lot of antioxidants, and a good amount of protein. When it comes to plants or vegetables, they're the best, or at least one of the best, plant-based protein sources you could eat, which says a lot about the product, because little to no vegetables contain good amounts of proteins at all. When it comes to beans and legumes, you should eat as much as you want of these products. They are super healthy, pretty low carb if you ask me, pretty high in dietary fibers, with a host of other benefits. And this is also backed by science. When we compare people who eat beans as their carb source compared to people who eat potatoes or rice as their carb source, we see that people who eat beans on a regular basis have better blood sugar levels than people who don't. And this all comes back to the relatively low carbohydrate and sugars in beans and the relatively high dietary fiber content in beans. And thus, it's not very strange to know that a lot of people who are into nutrition regard beans and legumes as one of the healthiest product group you can eat, regardless of your diet. Which bean you should eat really does not matter. They are all very healthy and they all have a lot in common nutrition-wise and health-wise. Just eat what you like. In general, lentils are considered to be the healthiest of all the beans and legumes, but again, it all depends on what you like and what you're preparing. If you're preparing a soup, then using lentils is often the best or easiest or most delicious option. But if you're making a stew or curry, then using chickpeas is often a better choice. But again, it's not health-based, it's all preference-based and taste-based. So eat whatever you can buy, whatever is available, whatever you like, and don't get too hung up on which one is the best. If you're looking for that, in general, lentils, regardless of their color, are the best. When it comes to beans, there's only one thing you should avoid, and that's the beans in tomato sauce variation. Because often they add sugars to these beans to make the sauce sweeter, which is of course bad, and they tend to add starches to the sauce to make the sauce a bit thicker, which is also bad, because sugars are sugars and not ideal for your blood sugar, and starches are nothing more than carbohydrates, which of course are added and unnecessary with no health benefits, so also that's a reason to avoid them. But other than that, you're free to choose whatever bean and legume you want. You're free to eat it as much as you want. There isn't really a strange or unhealthy way to prepare them, which might impact your blood sugar or type 2 diabetes in a negative way. So please have at it, enjoy them, and eat them as much as you like. A bonus thing we should discuss is the following. We often get the question about pastas made from flour that is made from a bean. For example, pasta that is made from lentil flour or chickpea flour. And the question is often, can I eat these products? Unfortunately, there is not one answer that fits all pasta kinds, because from experience we know that the nutritional value of these pastas can differ tremendously, even if they use the same flour from a bean. So product A that is made from chickpea flour isn't always the same as product B that is also made from chickpea flour. And unfortunately, the marketing department of food producers have found out that people tend to like to buy these products for the health benefits. And a consequence of this is that they tend to use regular flour, mix in a small amount of bean-based flour, and then heavily promote it as a healthy option that contains a bean. Unfortunately, if you look at the nutritional value, you'll find that it often contains 90 or 80 or 70% regular flour and just a small amount of the healthier flour. So the best thing you can do, depending on where you live and what's available, compare it to regular whole wheat pasta. If you have found a pasta based on a bean flour, then it often should contain less carbohydrates per unit of weight and more dietary fiber per unit of weight when you compare it to whole wheat pasta. If it doesn't differ that much nutrition-wise, then I'm afraid that the option you found isn't that great when compared to whole wheat pasta. So again, there isn't an answer that fits all types of bean-based pastas. Just compare it to the whole wheat variation in your supermarket and try to see if it contains less carbohydrates and sugars per unit of weight and more dietary fiber. If it does, it often is better. If it doesn't, then it's almost the same as whole wheat pasta. And if you're not sure if it's better or not, just drop a link of the product you found in the description of this video and I'll gladly have a look at it. That's it for this video. If you want to read up on this subject a bit more, there's a link to an article in the description of this video which discusses if you can eat beans and legumes if you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. And if you're on our website anyway, don't forget to subscribe to our diabetes-free secret. This is a small giveaway we have in which we teach you what the main causes of type 2 diabetes and high blood sugar are and what you can do to prevent, improve and fully reverse these problems with a healthy lifestyle. If you have any questions about this video, please leave a comment down below and I'll see you in the next video.